Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Transfer Target and another video covering all the big news around Manchester City Football Club, all the transfer news and all the gossip flying around the internet at the moment. Before I do this though, and before I dive into today's video, I want to say thank you once again to OneFootball for continuing to support my channel. OneFootball is absolutely awesome, as you don't know by now. If you don't know by now, you should know by now is what I'm trying to say there. It's fantastic and you get all your Manchester City news and all your stats and information from across the world of football. And of course, as well, it's the current home of the Euro 2020 content. You can get all your Euros news and all that kind of stuff sent straight to your phone so you don't miss out on any of the big news from across the game of football. It's fantastic. I've been using it for about 3 years now personally. It's been supporting my channel for absolutely ages. So do yourself a massive favour right now. Get ahead of the Manchester City news, get ahead of the Euro 2020 news and download OneFootball right now. And it helps support my channel, which is a lovely little bonus. Go and download it in the link in the description. But today we're going to talk about all the little news that's been popping up on the OneFootball app and the news about Manchester City Football Club. And there's been lots of academy related news today, and we're going to firstly start with Lukas Nmecha, who could be moving, according to reports, to RB Leipzig. I'm going to read this the reports. Apparently, Leipzig have claimed that they have won the race for Lukas Nmecha, but City sources have said they've received no bid yet, and 4 or 5 Bundesliga clubs are interested in the player, with Stuttgart and Eintracht Frankfurt also known admirers. Lots of reports yesterday did suggest that Leipzig had won the race and he'd be joining the Bundesliga club for around 10 million euros, which is interesting. It's probably a little bit cheap, actually, if anything, for the player. But you have to add in the caveat that he's only got 1 year left on his contract, unfortunately. So City haven't really got a lot of leverage just on this front. And I don't think he's going to sign a new contract. So it seems inevitable. The writing's on the wall. This guy is going to leave. And it's a shame, because I like Lukas Nmecha. One thing I will say is I'm not convinced he's Manchester City's level currently. And it's probably fair that he moves on and finds, success elsewhere. And I think the Bundesliga is a good move for him. He's done really, really well for Germany's under-21s and scored a whole ton of goals for them, had a good under-21 Euro campaign as well, and he's a very good player. He's done really well at Anderlecht, and that's a name that'll be coming back up again later on in the video, but he's done great. Yeah, that loan move to Vincent Kompany's Anderlecht got him kind of like European attention. He was already kind of noticed anyway, given his exploits for the under-21s in Germany, and of course the fact that he plays in Manchester City and was highly sought after as an academy striker. But he scored like 21 goals or something like that last season for Anderlecht, and he was a big part of a decent season for Anderlecht, and that of course will always turn heads when you score a bunch of goals in a respectable league. Obviously the Jupiler League isn't exactly a Serie A or the Premier League or the Bundesliga, but it's still a good league, and we know the Belgian league has produced a whole host of great talents, and if Nmecha goes there and impresses, well, he's another one from that general area to have a good season, so it's of course going to turn some heads. And what I will say is I kind of I hope he goes and has a good time there. Leipzig seems a good bet for him. It really does. Obviously, they are a club known for taking these young talents and giving them big careers. We've seen loads of people interested in Leipzig players and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, Konate's one who's just gone to Liverpool. And I wouldn't be surprised if Nmecha went there and did really well. Honestly, he's a very good player, Nmecha. What I will say is I'm not really convinced he's Manchester City's level currently. That's not to say one day he couldn't be, but right now, it's like the temptation is to go, oh, give him a chance, but he isn't quite there yet, but he's still very good. The only problem is he's 22 at the moment. He turns 23 in December, and he'll feel like he wants to get his career underway, and rightfully so. I've been watching Nmecha for absolutely years, and he's always struck me as a guy who's got a lot of talent, but could be a bit of a late bloomer. And that wouldn't surprise me at all if Nmecha got to 25 and he's actually a top quality striker. But the only difference is City probably just don't want to wait, and he probably doesn't want to wait around at City to get that chance too. So it's a move that suits all parties. Nmecha is going to have a very good career. I've always said that from day one. You can find videos from years old on this channel, and I've always been a big fan of Nmecha. He's probably just not quite Man City's level right now, but there is no shame in that, because Man City's level has been Aguero for years, and currently it might be Harry Kane or someone like that. Nmecha, I hope he has a great time if he goes there. And this would make an awful lot of sense. Bundesliga makes a lot of sense for him. One player, though, who could be following it in Nmecha's steps to Belgium is Harwood-Bellis. Now, Taylor Harwood-Bellis, of course, is coming off the back of a very good season at Blackburn Rovers. He was very good for the championship side and settled in really nicely and impressed a lot of Blackburn Rovers fans. I did a lot of kind of like searching around Twitter. Of course, I've not been watching Blackburn Rovers games, but I did a lot of searching. And obviously, fans are very supportive of young players in general. But he did seem to me me that Harwood-Bellis, according to the match reports that I've read as well, and the fans online and forums and Twitter and so on, it did seem to me that Harwood-Bellis had a good time at Blackburn. Like, he really adapted to the league, and he was more than good enough for the Championship, despite just being a teenager and only being very young, which is impressive. The Championship is a very, very hard league, man. He was only 18. He only turned 19 in January, the end of January, so he was 18 playing in the Championship and doing well at one point. So that's impressive, and I'm very, very happy for him. Obviously, no, he actually enjoyed. Sorry, I tell a lie. He joined on February the 1st, so you joined basically on his 19th birthday. But either way, he established himself and played like 19 games for Blackburn. And he did very well there. A lot of people turned around and said, oh, he needs another test now to go somewhere else and whatever to improve. And some people suggested the Premier League. My only kind of like negative against the Premier League move, which was suggested, was that it's just tough to get game time, because no mid-table team would take Harwood-Bellis. Not because he's not good enough, it's because he's a risk, because he's a young lad. So the only teams that would take him potentially would be the ones that are going to be near the bottom of the table, looking to get a good loan from Manchester City and so on. And the problem you've got when you get things like that is that the teams that struggle, the one player that's usually sacrificed in a team that's struggling near the bottom of the table is the young lone lad. We've seen it a billion times, and it's always the same. They are the first to fall on the sword, unfortunately. Just because everyone starts to fetishize experiencing these situations when a team's struggling. So I was never really keen on the idea of Harwood-Bellis going on loan to a lower Premier League side, because it just ends in the same story usually. They sit on the bench and barely play any football. So it might have worked, but at the same time, I understand why City probably would be a little bit reluctant if anyone did come in for that. Another season in the Championship would have been pretty good for him as well. But the reason I like this move in particular is apparently Vincent Kompany himself picked up the phone to Manchester City and requested Harwood-Bellis on loan. And after, obviously, the success of Nmecha's loan, this makes an awful lot of sense for me. It's a good league for him to play in. I think Anderlecht are going to be playing in the UEFA Conference League, that new competition, so you'll be playing European football. And once again, it's a professional league, it's a professional league that's got a good reputation of producing young talents. And at 19 years old, which he currently is, Harwood-Bellis playing for Vincent Kompany's Anderlecht at a good level, that's definitely a good experience for him. There's absolutely no shame whatsoever at 19 playing for one of the best sides in Belgium if he plays regularly. And according to all reports, he's completed his medical test in Brussels yesterday, and his loan is in its final phase. They won't have an option to make the stay permanent next summer, because City apparently still have a lot of expectation on Harwood-Bellis. But I like this move. I think it makes an awful lot of sense for Harwood-Bellis. It makes an awful lot of sense for Manchester City. It's a very good league with expectation to win. And he also, once again, you'll have that close contact with Vincent Kompany. And as a centre-back, who better to learn from than someone like Vincent Kompany? As a person and as a player, there's no better mentor, really, than Vincent Kompany. So I like it. I'll be paying a close attention to Harwood-Bellis and see how he gets on over there. But this is a good move for him. It'll help him improve as a person. He'll be in another country. He'll grow professionally. He'll mature over there, and he'll learn from one of the best defenders in Manchester City's history, in the Premier League's history. Next on this list is Grealish. Just a little bit of an update. Apparently, according to The Athletic, Aston Villa are telling players of interest that Grealish will be staying at the club, which for now is the case, but City's interest is growing. But it was notable that Grealish as well said, what did he say? It was a comment about, I've lost the quote, I'll be totally honest if I'm talking about it. He was asked if he wants to play European football, and he said something like, one day we'll see, or something like that. And apparently he wants to come to Manchester City, we'll see. But that was a little bit of an update up there in Grealish. Aston Villa have got a lot of money, that's one thing we always forget, and Grealish is their star player, he's their captain. They've got an awful lot of money, so they're not desperate to sell someone like Grealish, and it would take Grealish genuinely pushing for a move to get him to leave the club. And of course, it would take Manchester City selling a player of the ilk of Bernardo Silva or someone like that as well for Manchester City to consider then going for someone like Grealish, in my personal opinion. So the Grealish one, no real movement on that front, but I thought it was interesting that Villa are briefing that Grealish will be there next season. We'll see, you never know. And finally, I've just put striker weight, question mark. Well, that's what I'd wrote in my notes anyway. I'm not sure what's actually the bottom in the bar when we get to it. But according to Rob Dawson at ESPN, City are willing to wait a year to sign their ideal striker if they can't sign Harry Kane this summer. City would apparently likely revive their interest in Kane next year, while Haaland could be another option if he decides to leave, which is interesting and comes barely a few hours after Fabrizio Romano yesterday said that confirmed City have made a bid for Harry Kane and all that kind of stuff. But apparently we're not yet in advanced negotiations with Harry Kane's camp on personal terms because he's focused on the Euros. I suspect Manchester City are bluffing here. I do not think there's a situation where Guardiola would be happy about not having a striker for next season. I personally wouldn't be happy. I mean, I know people will point towards the false nine, but I think it's very much we got away with it this season, last season, however you count it. We very much got away with not having a striker, in my personal opinion. And if it came to it for another year, I think eventually teams would work out that one trick that we've got and they'd nullify it relatively easily. People would turn around and go, yeah, but what about Ferran Torres or Gabriel Jesus or Liam Delap and all that kind of stuff? That's fine, but I think there's question marks over all of them. And what I will say, and not because they're bad, but they've had their own question marks. Like Jesus, is he clinical enough? Delap, is he mature enough? These all might be yes, by the way, but the question marks is what I'm saying. And Ferran Torres, is he the long-term solution as a striker? We don't know yet. So what I'm saying is there is questions on over those if they have the answer. And I think Guardiola deserves to have a striker where there's no question marks over, a high quality striker that we know is just a high quality striker. So Guardiola deserves that. So I'd be disappointed in Manchester City if they did not sign a striker, given what Guardiola's done for this club and given the fact that we've made this mistake before when we didn't replace Vincent Kompany and it cost us for a year before we got Ruben Diaz and Ake in. So I don't want Manchester City to make the same mistake again, because eventually teams will figure us out and they will blunt us. And I don't want us to do it to ourselves. So I don't want to wait another year. And to be honest, if you're waiting a year, there's absolutely no point in getting Harry Kane, because at that point he's getting a bit older. I don't see the point in signing someone different who's nearly 30 at that point. He's okay. He'll be he'll be a year off 30, but I don't want to sign Harry Kane that point personally. But anyway, guys, that's just a little bit of update from across the world in Manchester City. Let me know what you think down in the comments about all these headlines about Nmecha, Harwood-Bellis, what's going on with Grealish, and who would you sign this summer if you could not get Harry Kane. I might do a video on that, by the way, some alternatives coming up later on today as well. For now, though, like, comment, subscribe, go and download One Football. Big love to all the patrons currently scrolling down the side of the screen. I hope you're well, hope you're enjoying the Euros, and I'll see you tomorrow to later on maybe for another video about alternatives to Harry Kane potentially. If not, though, I'll definitely be back tomorrow in a bit. Love you all.